Stop recording.
It would help if the mic was actually on. Oh, there we go. Um, okay, it sounds pretty loud in my headphones, but you never know how actually loud these things are when you go to record. Even if it does seem sort of loud in my headphones. Let's gonna edit. Oh, let's see. What just happened? Okay, so that's the there we go. That's super high end. Okay, so let's bring up the volume. Okay, so that's the actual mic volume. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about picking techniques. And there's a lot of picking techniques out there that you can use. Of course, today it's mainly, of course, it should be obvious because there's not any light in this room, most likely. It's pretty dark outside, and I didn't turn on any lights in here just to kind of set the mood that these videos are for people who are no longer using vision for learning to play guitar. So everything in this is going to be auditorial. There we go, auditorial. So there's picking techniques that I've come up and I feel that would be helpful to other people learning to play guitar without sight. So in my previous video, I talked about how to hold your pick. That you should have as much real estate, as much of a grasp on the pick as you possibly can. And especially for picking techniques, because then it puts your hand closer to the strings. And it gives you almost that way to feel where you can pick in. And another thing you can do, because you have sorry. So basically use the palm of your hand, the space that's open behind where you're holding the pick. Your hand, it's almost like a bar, like you're lifting and closing that bar. And doing that, you always feel those strings because it's, like I said, you can feel the strings. Basically, it's the palm of your hand that's almost like the center down through your pinky. And you'll be able to feel it. Kind of gives you a good orientation of where you're at. Like I said, when you do that, you lift your hand. Of course, if your hand's just sitting there, then of course the strings are dead. But this is good because then there's a lot of techniques that go with palm muting. And of course, there's a number of types of palm muting. There's where you're muting the fretboard, and then there's when you're muting the actual when you're muting the strings at the body. It's palm muting and fret muting. There's at least different types of muting the strings. And all that's for timing. All these kinds of things are timing kind of things. And that's one of the most important things you can learn is having good timing. And also this helps you with coming up with musical ideas, so riffs. And like I said, every time your hand comes down and you feel those strings, and it gives you that orientation, to know where you're at as far as what strings you're deciding to strike. Sighted players, they're able to just look at the strings that they're going to strike. So that's what this technique really does, like I said. And once again, having your fingers on the pick, the majority of the pick, to where there's just a little bit left of the tip of the arrow, of the point of your pick. This also gives you the ability to do a lot of other cool things, such as the pinch harmonics. A lot easier on the higher. Or just in general, it kind of helps you really with deciding what you're going to pick and how you're going to pick it. So this is almost what people would refer as a sweep picking technique. And how I'm doing this, and this is a little more advanced. So to do that, it's almost as if you're making the pick. You bring your thumb back a little bit towards that flat end of the arrow, and you're giving the pick more surface. You still have your fingers on there, but it's a different grasp on the pick, and you're giving it more surface, so that when you move your pick up and down the strings, it gives you this nice flowing movement. And in a lot of ways, this movement, it's like you're bending your wrist, and think of it as that you're moving your wrist, back and forth, up and down, like in a circle. You're doing that rotation. Almost think of, if you're a cane user, think of the tap technique. You're moving your wrist back and forth, back and forth. So, and there's another. This is just like I said, one of the many picking techniques. Another great one to do, and this is where you make the pick flat. So, turning it basically. When I mean flat, I mean the main body of the pick. So, like you're setting the arrow in between, like so. Instead of like trying to cut the strings with it, like instead of the instead of trying to fit the pick on the strings, um, when you're picking, you're either going up and down. But this technique, you hold the pick more at an angle, more like um, it's more like if you took the triangle, the pick, and you faced it down flat and you fit it in between those strings, so you're striking it that way. And like I said, you want to bend your thumb a little bit back towards the flat end of the arrow. And this gives you more real estate. You can feel when you're dragging the pick across the strings. It's almost like the bottom. It's almost like you're going between the flat section of the arrow and the bottom of the arrow when you're going down. So when you go up, you're dragging the flat section of the pick that you have your fingers on, not the and your thumb, that whole section. And this is just another way to kind of orientate you in a way, kind of, and it's it gives a different sound because there's more surface of the pick. When you just strike with the tip of the pick, that's different. I know it's minute, but it's a lot different, especially on electrics. And another way, there's a ton, like I said, there's tons of ways. One of the best ways you can do, though, to get really good at picking is just put enough, if you sit your pick on the top string and just kind of feel like it's falling down. Because all these things it's all about finesse. Playing light and fast and as little energy as possible. And like I said, this motion, it's very this is kind of the stuff it creates that nice flowing sound. And the movement, just to get a better idea, like I said, you're moving your wrists. You're moving your wrists, like I said, almost like. Think of it as you're trying to kind of make you're almost trying to spin the pick on the strings. Almost like you're drawing, almost like you're coming up a circle, like you're making a circle on the strings. And that, which is part of it. The other part is how your pick is actually moving. It's very much bending. It's your pick in your hand. It's not just your hand moving, but it's also the movement of the pick in the strings. Think of almost like the end of a paintbrush. So it's very much that movement, almost like painting. If you've ever held a paintbrush and painted, the bristles, they move, up and down. It's exactly that movement. The way the brush bends. So those are just some techniques as far as playing arpeggios and just other ways to pick. So another technique is almost like a sawing. You attack the string in a, like I said, in a sawing motion. You can do this a couple different ways. You can use the tip, the most pointy end of the arrow, or you can use the flat bottom, one of the sides. And you can also strike the strings that way too. It's always fun to experiment. Just experiment, really. Find what works best for you. That's really what this all has to do is, But these are just some tips to help out with orientation and, just to give you a guide on how to be a better player. Ways to think of, even, because there's so many techniques and things when it comes to playing a lot of songs. Well, how do I play this? How do I, there's tons of songs once you get this. This can be applied not just in any one particular, type of music. It applies to everything, You need to be able to decide, what strings you need to pick. Every song requires a set amount of strings, knowing that, you can orientate yourself and make the choices artistically. That's really what the whole point behind this video is. The ability to orientate yourself and not feel like you never know what you need to strike, or because if when you just are strumming, it's just so easy not to decide what you're gonna play, whereas when you have your hand closer to the strings, okay, I know I can do this. And it also, when your hands are closer to each other, closer to your body, it gives you a better orientation in your in your head, physically. Your hands are closer together, whereas when you just try to grab the pick, like a lot of most people will try to show you how to grab a pick, it is not the most connected way to play non-visually, in my opinion, at least. In all the experience I've had over the years, it is, trying to play like everybody else, because you're not everybody else. You have your own set of challenges, and you gotta play that's gonna be the best way that works for you. And I hope that all of this helps achieve that. It helps you get to that point where you're developing your own skills, your own techniques upon this. I hope that anybody who watches this video is able to build on these tips and techniques that I've learned over the years of playing. So enjoy, use these. Let me know what you think, whether these tips were helpful as far as orientation and just the idea of what strings you want to play when you play them. Because like I said, when you're holding your pick and your hands way up here, way far away from the strings, it doesn't. I don't know. I feel that when you're closer, when your hand is close. Also, another thing is where I didn't mention this in the beginning, is where your arm is resting. Once again, it's on the top of the body, just a little bit before the. Of course, you have the hump or the down. Yeah, I would say the hump. The middle of the hump that separates the body. So my arm is sitting on the curve of the body so that it comes down and it sits where my palm rests. It rests towards towards where the strings go into the body. So, you know, the great thing about having your resting your hand down there is you always know, oh, there are the strings. They're right there. You feel them. That's a constant connection, really. You can also feel it a little bit on your knuckles too, and the back of your fingers, sides of your fingers a bit when you're strumming. Honestly, I kind of feel that all of these things, they just kind of help you feel a little more connected, feel a little less where things, because like I said, when you're just holding the pick and your hands far away, and yeah, you can feel the fretboard. You don't. I don't know. I feel like, okay, well, what? How do I strike these next strings in this song? What, I need to make sure that I always strike that D. That I always hit that A. That I always hit the G when I'm playing this particular solo. So, and that's what I hope this helps you realize, that doing this will help you achieve that kind of stuff. So, good luck, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Stop recording button.